Okay, so we are on to round 25. We're going to go back to magenta yarn, and I hope you're enjoying camel stitches because we get another 200 to do in this round. Actually, I think it's 192, but you know, very close to 200. So a couple of things to make this round a bit easier. One, it can be hard to see the increases in other stitches with camel stitches because the two loops are basically hiding the work that you just did. So one thing to remember, the increases were above these front post stitches, so if you go up from that and then you bend the work, you can see, okay, there are two stitches in the same one, so there's my increase. And one thing that can help with these is a stitch marker. You can buy stitch markers, or I just use a little bit of extra yarn so I can mark the stitch. That's the first stitch in the increase, which is where we're going to join our yarn. With these, it can be difficult to find where the repeat started and ended, so again, using a little marker or some yarn to mark where each repeat ends will make it faster to count to see that you really are still on count. So we are going to join in the first stitch of an increase, so there was my increase, so I'm going to join in this stitch, and remember, we're not going to join in the front or the back loop. We're going to bend the work over and join in the third loop, which is here. Now I haven't done it yet on these ones like I did in the last round. I cheated to make it a little easier for me, but I didn't do that here. So I'm going to move my marker out and use it in a bit. We are going to do, where am I? 5 single crochet followed by an increase. So this is 1 for 2. Again, we're going to find the third loop on the reverse side of the work, pull it on, and complete a single crochet. That's 2. Three, 4, 5. So you notice these white stitches, since both loops are on the front of the work, it gives you a little bit extra texture there. So after these 5, we're going to do an increase. So 2 in the same third loop. So here's my stitch. I grab the third loop on the reverse side, and I want to do 2 single crochet in this loop. So there's my increase. Now here is a good point if you want to keep track of your stitches, because it can be difficult when the work's done here to see where the increase happened. You might want to mark it with either a stitch marker or just a little bit of yarn so that you can count later to check your work. Of course, this is not working very well for me. I apologize. There we go. It's easier to do that after you finish the stitch, not while you're doing it. But all right, so we did our increase. I marked the stitch just so I can find it later. And now after the increase, we want 16 single crochet. So this is 1, 2, 3. I'm going to let go of the tail because I don't need to more than a few stitches in there to hold it on. That's 4. 5. 6. 6. Oops. You can see here I dropped a loop on the yarn somehow when I was working. Not a big fan of these showing up, and if you catch it later on and you can't go back and fix it, you can in the next round just grab it as part of the stitch and kind of hide it, but since it's right here, I'm just going to undo these so that I can get that better. So now I have the whole one there, and this is why I mark that second stitch of the increase so that it's easy for me to go back and go, okay, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches right there, because again, it's hard to find the increases in the camel stitches. So that's 4. No, I don't need you to. This is redoing 5 and redoing 6. 7. 8. So halfway through. Yeah, that does not feel like I had all of it. I think that's 10. $13. 14, maybe. 15. Hopefully 16. So 2 ways to check. 1, I can go back and count. And 2, I can see my next stitch. If you look here, sort of bend your work, you can see I got 2 going into the same stitch, which means that's the next increase. So I should be right on track here. And we'll count just to be sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. So there's 1 repeat. I recommend, again, to make your life a little bit easier, mark this last stitch. And you can actually do this on every round if it helps you. If it's easier for you to count repeats, count stitches by marking the end of each repeat, you can go ahead and do that with a stitch marker or with just a little bit of a little piece of yarn. So when we complete this round, you'll see the 2 white rows are going to have the 3D stitches, the ones that come up. The purple is just going to be a tiny little bit on each side, and then from this point on it'll be regular stitches, no more camel stitches. At least I don't remember there being any more. So we'll say for now there are no more camel stitches. So the repeat again, start on the first stitch of an increase. You're going to have 5 single crochet followed by a repeat, and then 16 single crochet, which should finish that little section. Do that 8 times around before we move on to the next round. Okay, we're ready to start round 26, and you'll be glad to know, or maybe not, I'm not sure, but no more camel stitches. We're just going back to regular back loop only, single crochet and increases. So again, no front post stitches, no overlay stitches here. We're just going to do actually 11 single crochet, an increase, 11 single crochet. That's it all the way around. So to start, you want to start in the first stitch of an increase, and again with the camel stitches it can be tough to find an increase, so I remind you that our first increases were over here, so it should be a little bit after one of these front post chains that's going on right here. So if you look a little after that, you should be able to find, especially if you bend it over a little bit, excuse me, to see the stitches better. We've got an increase right here. So using our coral color yarn, you want to join back loop only, in the first stitch of the increase. Our chain is going to count as our first single crochet. And as I mentioned, the pattern here is pretty easy. For each repeat, 11 single crochet, increase, 11 single crochet. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. After the 11, we want an increase. Oops, sorry, I split that stitch right there. Let me grab it before I finish this. So an increase, 2 stitches in the same back loop. And now 11 more single crochet. So 11, increase, 11. It's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and 11. And if the count is right, which hopefully it is, you notice I am just after the front post stitches, so it's looking good so far. And if I bend my stitches over, I can see, yep, the next stitch is actually an increase. So that's where we want to start our next repeat. So there it is. Like I had said before, what's nice with this, the camel stitches give us this 3D, relief textured pattern here, and then we have that little tiny strip of purple on each side of it before we start our coral stitches here. So join in the first stitch of an increase, 11 single crochet, increase, 11 single crochet. That's the whole repeat. Finish it 8 times around before we move on to the next round. All right, we're on to round 27. I'm going to join in a new color now. This is actually a lime green, but when it gets worked in here, to me it always just looks yellow, so that's what I'm calling it here. So a yellow yarn, or a very pale green if you want. This round is similar to the last, no more camel stitches. It's just going to be single crochet and increases in the back loop only. This is the last of those stitches, or last of these rounds. The next round we start doing new overlay stitches, I believe. So this is the last one that's just a simple trip around. We want to join in the first stitch of an increase. So I got an increase right here. This is again just back loop only. So join with a chain, and it won't be quite as even as the last round. Here we're going to do 4 single crochet, then an increase, and finish out the repeat with 19 single crochet. So 4 single crochet, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and this is just to give a little pop of bright color here after some of these blues and cool colors. 4 single crochet followed by an increase, so 2 stitches in the same back loop. And now we just want to do single crochet all the way until the repeat ends, so until we get to a increase. So it looks like there's one here. Should be 19 single crochet. That's 2. Remember, we do this to space out the increases to keep the shape as round as possible. That's 4. Drop the the tail there. I think this is 10. I'm going to count just to check. So here's my increase. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Aha! 11. I was off in my count. 11. 12. 14. 16. 18. And hopefully 19. Let's check and see where we are. Next stitch is an increase, so we've got it right there. Again, that's how you can tell that you're doing the correct count. So we join in the first stitch of an increase. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 single crochet followed by an increase, and now 19 to finish out the section. Repeat that 8 times around, join before we move on to the next.